Hi, admit it, did you look at Harry Potter in his magical robes as a kid and get jealous? Well, this girl would tell you that being invisible is actually not as cool as it may seem at first glance. And how she became one, and what happened next, we'll tell you now. Z Movie Recaps here. Subscribe and like. Here we go. Holly grew up the middle child in the family. For beauty was the older sister, Vanessa, and for intelligence, the younger brother, Troy. The only person who was genuinely interested in her hobbies and thoughts was her mom. But her mother fell when Holly was 12 and died suddenly. That's when the girl stopped paying attention. At the table, her father didn't ask about her affairs, and her brother and sister ignored her. But soon it spread to the rest of her life. Holly stopped being noticed even at school, and one fine morning she simply disappeared. Many years passed, and Holly learned to lead a quite ordinary life with her little peculiarity. Now she lives in a rented apartment alone, and at night she goes to work, most often in nightclubs where she peeks into other people's lives, and then leaks the pictures to local journalists for big money. Her brother Troy still lives in his father's house, but in the basement where he has set up a movie studio and shoots weird experimental movies with women's feet. Vanessa is married and still obsessed with her own looks. On Fridays, the family still meets for dinner, and Holly attends, but no one knows about it. One day, Holly goes to the club for her shift as usual. She follows the famous people and follows them into the private area, but suddenly something happens. The bouncer throws Holly out of the club, and her strange questions are not answered. The girl is so shocked that she thought she was normal, but another security guard comes out and tries to talk to her. It becomes clear that he still doesn't see her as before. A few days later, Holly sees a newspaper with a photo of her. She realizes that the photo is of the same bouncer from the club. The guy's name is Shane Blackwell, and he is a former world champion in mixed martial arts. Holly learns that a few years ago the guy started dating famous actress Juliana King, and for a while the couple was at the height of their fame. And then Shane was caught cheating, and soon he lost a fight to famous rival Otillie Mate. Fans turned their backs on him, and his career quickly went down the drain. Holly decides to go to the club again and trap Shane at the service exit. She asks if he remembers her, and gives him the unfortunate newspaper. Learning that the stranger was involved in the collapse of his career, Shane gets even angrier and asks Holly to leave him alone. Then she says that she can whitewash his reputation, restore his career, and maybe even fix things with Juliana. Holly insists that he take her with him and promises to show him her skills. When she meets him at the bar, the girl immediately sits on the bar next to the agent and keeps speaking at his phone, but he doesn't even pay attention to her. Holly quickly finds out and comments out loud that the partner is cheating Shane out of money. He's giving her less for the matches than he's actually getting. Not understanding what's going on, Shane runs out of the bar and asks for an explanation. Shane doesn't believe a word she says, so she decides to go for more extreme methods of persuasion. The guy realizes that the driver didn't see the girl like she said. He relents and says he's ready to talk to her the next morning at his house. They meet. Holly presents her theory to him. She believes they have the same spell, and only the two of them can help each other break it. Shane was kicked out of the house by his mother's boyfriend when he was 13 and has felt abandoned since he was a child. Holly felt the same way when her mom died. Shane eventually accepts the girl's help and invites her to an underground fight where he performs. Holly isn't thrilled with the venue and is surprised at the winner's tiny fee of only $300. The girl says Shane deserves more and promises to find him better opponents and bigger competitions. Holly spends a few days studying the portfolios of the DeFist fighters and decides to start with the notorious thug Suarez. She sneaks into his house, takes pictures of steroids in his kitchen, and sends him a picture of the pills. Sitting a few meters away from her victim, she says that she will give the picture to the journalists if he does not meet her conditions. From Suarez's house, she goes to Shane, who just received a call from his agent. He informs her that he has arranged a fight with Suarez's toughest opponent, and Shane realizes who is behind it. Preparations begin for an important fight in which Suarez is the clear favorite. He invites her to the fight, but she says it's dangerous for her to be in the crowd and refuses. Then he offers to watch the match at his house and wait for him. Holly agrees, but before she does, she stops by Vanessa's house to borrow a blouse and lipstick from her unsuspecting sister. Shane almost gives up at the beginning of the fight, but he withstands his opponent's onslaught for 3 rounds and then suddenly makes a painful hold and forces him to give up. Immediately after the fight, Shane goes home, bumping into an annoying journalist on the way, and calls Holly to sit on the rooftop. Shane shares with the girl his worries about whether he's going crazy and asks if she's real. Holly almost gets offended, and then the guy kisses her. At that very moment, a journalist's camera peeks out of the staircase, which manages to take a picture. But there's nothing to worry about. Holly won't be visible in the picture anyway. Whatever. Shane gives a press conference with his next opponent, the smug Tommy Bounds, who says that Shane is ill-prepared and will probably give up in the first round. But Blackwell journalists are not asking about the fight, but about the mysterious girl in the picture. Some think it is the same Juliana King with whom they are together again. After the interview, Holly sneaks into Tommy's limo and sends him a message. The picture with him, his fan, and her underwear is attached. Holly writes that the girl in the picture is 16 and attaches her ID. She offers Tommy a deal. Finally, it's time for the big fight. Shane fights against Tommy, who has won 10 straight, but that doesn't stop him from crushing the smug athlete. After a resounding victory, Holly offers his boss, a journalist, exclusive videos of Shane's training. But he refuses. Nobody is interested in successful guys. Then she gives him supposedly insider information about Shane's upcoming rematch with Attila Mate. The news quickly reaches Mate, and at first he doesn't like it at all. But the agent convinces him that a second victory will only solidify the champion status, and the athlete agrees. Holly spends the whole day in Mate's apartment trying to find the dirt, but without success. The next morning, she goes to her sister's apartment to return the sweater and sees her crying in the bathtub with a pregnancy test in her hands. Juliana, meanwhile, unexpectedly calls Shane to the bar and flirts with him. In the middle of their meeting, Holly appears at the bar. The girl sees what's going on, gets angry, and runs away. The couple fights. Holly is sure that the ex is just using Shane, and he asks her to understand him too. He can't date a girl who doesn't exist. These words hurt Holly, and she says that she hasn't found any dirt on Attila, so Shane will have to deal with it on his own. The guys have a big fight. Holly locks herself in the house, sees on TV that the guy has rekindled his affair with Juliana, mopes, and quits her job. But one day Shane comes to visit her. He says that it wasn't because of that photo that they broke up with Juliana, and that he lost the first fight with Attila solely because of his own fault. The girl realizes that's why her curse hasn't been lifted yet. Then Shane suggests that she take another look at what happened to Holly after her mother's death. Maybe the family didn't abandon her at all, maybe something else. The girl can't believe the insolence. Not only did the most important person in her life leave her, after which she became useless, but Shane insinuates that it's her own fault. Holly is alone again. She thinks about her family and seems to be remembering things. One day she goes back to Vanessa's house and sees her taking a pregnancy test for the 3rd time and then hiding it from her husband. Holly kicks the garbage can and the test falls right in front of her son-in-law. The boy is overjoyed and Vanessa starts to cry. She shares with her husband the horror of her mother's death and how she is afraid to have children of her own. Holly suddenly realizes that she is not the only one affected by the family tragedy. Later, Holly goes to her brother's house. She watches his movies, which she used to think were strange, and sees the beauty in them, as well as the footage of her mom. Holly notices that there is a girl in the footage that Troy most often shoots. At the same moment, she passes by the window, and she decides to help her brother meet her by tripping the stranger. Next, she goes to her father's house. She sees a whole collection of sleeping pills in his bedroom and realizes that he sits at the monitor all day long, not out of a great love for his work, but to dull his anxiety. Holly also notices that he still keeps his mom's paintings and visits her grave with flowers every anniversary. Holly realizes that everyone in her family has had a hard time coping with the loss. She's been expecting so much support from others that she's forgotten how to support herself. She misses the start of the fight, listening to it on the radio. She learns that the first 2 rounds are spent on the defensive, and the third round ends with an injury. Shane's position is getting worse by the second. He is 1 step away from defeat. When he gets to his feet, he immediately receives a series of pinches to the chest and chin and then falls down again. After another exhausting round, Holly runs into the ring and tells Shane words of encouragement that he is the champion and is here by right. The invisible girl knows he can't see or hear her anymore, but takes the guy's hand anyway. Suddenly, Shane opens his eyes and looks right at her. Holly runs out of the ring, and Shane comes back into the fight with renewed vigor. He hits his opponent with a series of lightning-fast punches and exhausts him with takedowns. Holly is dragged out of the ring and realizes that she is no longer invisible. After a few seconds, the referee stops the fight after Shane's winning takedown, and the judges announce their scores after 5 rounds. The fighters go toe-to-toe, but Mate wins. Shattered, Shane leaves the ring. Juliana tells him he did well and immediately runs to compliment Mate. Shane runs to find Holly and literally snatches her out of the hands of the guards. He realizes she's real and admits that he broke up with Juliana. This breaks Holly's curse forever. Now she's found love. But that's only half the battle. What's left is to learn to see other people's pain and grow up. But the first step has already been taken. At the end of the story, the girl goes to her father and hugs him in tears. What do you think happens next? Did Holly's relatives think she abandoned them too? And if so, will they be able to forgive her? Share your theories in the comments, give this clip a like, and subscribe to the channel if you appreciate cool movies too.